2003 GMC 2500 HD. Having issues with ABS, unwanted ABS activation, and I believe it's the wheel bearings. I'm not exactly sure if it's the wheel bearings or not. I didn't back probe the sensor signal. I looked at scan tool data, and it wasn't really showing me anything significant. All the wheel speed sensors were kind of, they're all basically the same. There wasn't any like weird, one was like way behind, or one was above. One wasn't higher and one wasn't lower. They were basically even. I don't know if it's just because that was process data is why it's coming up like that or not. But anyway, I looked at the ABS dump valves and or the activation of the ABS, and the right front, or the left front one was activating basically every time I came to a stop. It was opening. The right one was doing it like here or there, but not really that much. It did it on occasion. I think it did it a couple of times in the beginning, and then it stopped doing it. I'm just gonna change them both. I got a set for 150 bucks off of eBay, so I want to fix that because I want to sell this truck and send it on down the road. I did take the other side apart. I did the other side already. I'm gonna do this side now. I will be changing the brakes as well, because the brakes are in poor condition as well. I noticed that when I took the other side apart, and I don't want to try to sell it like that, so let's get new front brakes too. And yeah, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the wheel off. I think that's 22 millimeter. What we got? Yep, 22. It's 22 for the wheel. There. Stick a jack stand under there. Pull this cover off. Boom. All right, let's see. So we're gonna pull off the caliper. These are 18 millimeter caliper guide pin nuts here. Some of them might have a Torx bit in there. Those kind of stink. They're kind of hard to get off. But anyway, so we got one here, one there. These are 18 millimeter on this. And then we're going to take off the caliper bracket, which is that bolt there, and then there's one on the other side. I think those are the 22 millimeter as well, or possibly 21. So those are 21. So these are 21, these are 18. So pull those off now. Let's see, that's got to go this way, that way. Turn the wrong way. Little planning. Ow. Oh, that hurts. Have to right down to the not tan skin. Frustrating. You ever just get irritated with something to the point where you're like, I don't care, I'm just gonna throw it in the garbage? That's kind of where I'm getting with this. I mean, they gotta pass inspection, you gotta be in somewhat good condition, but I'm just tired of working on the things. So I'm kind of just fixing all the stuff that's wrong with it. Maybe we can use a pair of pliers. Come in the hole in the... Come in there, the hole in the caliper, into the rotor, and just kind of start prying it, and it should collapse those pistons enough to slide it off. And it did. There's other ways you can do it. You can come in here against the rotor with a pry bar and just push on the actual pad, like on the top and the bottom, and that'll pull it away too. But this works. So I'm gonna come up here. I'm gonna undo this wire, or the speed sensor wire. I usually just undo the clips and take them off that way. I don't generally take the clips like out of the brackets, because they usually rust in there and they'll break off. And I think it does come with a new one, but if you're just taking it off and putting it back on, I would just unclip the wire from them and not actually pull the pin out. That's kind of what happened here. This one, I changed the control arm, and that one broke, and I didn't have another one because I wasn't changing it. I was just changing the control arm, and then I had to zip tie it to it because it broke off. But so usually that's what I try to do. Get this clip off. There's that. Out of the way. My guide pins out. Flip that up on top. Let's take our 21 millimeter on the caliper brackets, bolts. Try to break a bar. They're on there pretty good, I think. I don't remember, they're like 200 or something. I'll figure it out. One. Two. Yeah, there you go. Those are like your warranted for life brake pads. Apparently they're just garbage like the rest of them. Because I generally don't buy cheap brake pads, and I don't buy cheap rotors. But they turn to garbage just like the cheap ones do. So, whatever. Persuasion. Now you could probably potentially clean up this sensor. Underneath the sensor, I guess usually the rust will separate it, and it will cause it'll lift the sensor, it'll increase the air gap, and it will cause it to not read right, which can cause the ABS malfunction or unwanted activation, whatever you want to call it. I've tried that before with a wheel bearing that wasn't bad, but I was having the ABS activation, and that one was reading different too. So that one was clearly had an issue, because I don't think it was reading as high as the rest of them. So I did that. I cleaned it all off. I measured the air gap. I measured the sensor, and it was perfect. And it still did the ABS activation. So whatever it was inside the hub that was causing the problem. I don't know if there's rust on the tone ring or what the deal was, but it wasn't the sensor, because I used a sensor that was good, and it still did it. And more than likely, when you go to pull that sensor out, it's going to break off anyway. So that's why I'm just changing the whole thing. So that nut should be 36 millimeter ish. Not supposed to use an impact gun on it, I guess. I don't know. I'm using an impact gun on it. I'm not going to tighten it with an impact gun. I'm going to torque it to the right tightness, but I'm taking it off with an impact gun, because I don't believe it's going to cause any issue. I can't see what the issue would cause. I mean, I guess if it was hammering on your differential, but it doesn't, because it's not engaged. So ain't gonna be no problems there. So now we have 4 nuts, or 4 bolts back here, 1, 2, and 3, and 4 in the corners. I think those are 15 millimeter. We're gonna take those out too. Great. I think I want to get one of those flex head torque wrenches. Just because this would be a pain to try to get a torque wrench in straight, especially something that's going to go like 200 foot-pounds. It's like, it's hard to get in there. I mean, you could turn the wheel, which ain't bad if you're on a lift, but sitting on a jack, turning the wheel back and forth, unless you got both wheels off the ground, it likes to kind of push side to side, and I don't really like doing that. Yeah, 4 out. Awesome. Well, that's not seized in there. That's good. So you can take an impact hammer, try to rotate this. Take you off. I'm gonna free lock you. So try to hammer sideways on this to rotate this thing, and it kind of breaks the bond, and then you can kind of get it off. I don't have the air hose run out here, so I'm just going to persuade it with a persuader, and I'm going to try to just kind of swing in here and kind of knock it off, to be honest. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I get a little gap here and then kind of work a little gap there, and just put a screwdriver in there to kind of keep the gap from closing, and hammer that side. You know, just kind of work at it. Show you brake caliper and I'll go flying. Yeah. Come on, forget about it. So, hurt my fingers. There's that. So, have to clean some of this crap out of this knuckle here. Is that a rubber O-ring? That is an O-ring. That is weird. I haven't seen an O-ring in there before. That's the first time for that for me. Yeah, it's weird. I've never seen an O-ring in there before. I mean, I do with the Fords, but they're usually one on the wheel bearing. But that's just kind of right in the groove there. I wonder if it's just to try to keep water out from seizing it on there. Subscriber. If you're wondering if that is a dog barking in the distance, yes, it is a dog barking in the distance. So, part number, wheel bearing. So that's what it got stuck on, was that O-ring. Interesting. So, yeah. So I clean that up where it gets up to the O-ring. I don't have an O-ring for it, and to be honest, I guess I've never really seen one on these before. But put some never sees on there. It will help for disassembly later. I'll just do as I say, not as I do. Alright, so those 4 bolts on this wheel bearing are going to get torqued to 133 foot-pounds. Or you can go to 134 if your torque wrench doesn't do 133. Alright. So this one up on top is kind of a pain. So I'm gonna try to put a swivel on and see how that goes. Something like that. Let's see, that is going the wrong way. Yeah. In case you're wondering, that's why I've been thinking about getting the swivel one. So, 170, 77. So this nut, I've seen a few different torque ranges for it. I've seen, what is it? Like 155 and 177. This came with a pamphlet that stated this is 177. So that's what I'm gonna do. I wonder if it's like 155 for used bearings, 177 for new. I don't know. But anyway, the torque puts the preload on the bearings, so without the correct torque, it can come apart or wear out sooner. So that's the what goes on with them. So I'm just going to use a piece of steering shaft to kind of lock that in place, because I don't care about that steering shaft, it's garbage. Use a pry bar or whatever you want. You can also put the brakes and everything together, have somebody hold the brakes while you torque it too. $177. I'd suggest getting a new nut if you can find one. Well, put some Never-Sees on there. No, not Never-Sees. Loctite. That's the opposite thing. So, here's that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock these out of here. Those are seized right in there. I kind of felt like the brakes not be working so well. And that would explain it. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside, and you can take a file or whatever you want, clean up underneath here where the hardware goes. I'm going to go inside, I'm going to use the sandblast cabinet that finally works. All it cost me was another $360 for a kit to go on there that actually functions. So, turn that Harbor Freight piece of junk in an actual operating piece of equipment. Can you believe it? So, like I said, I'm going to go in there, sandblast this off, and I'll be back. So, all cleaned up, for the most part. I mean, a lot better than it was. A lot easier, too, than using a file, a wire brush, or anything like that. So, take some, what do we got here? Brake caliper grease. Put some of that under here. Some on both sides, and we're going to take our new hardware, put our new hardware on, put our brake pads on, and then we're going to put them, put this back on after we put the rotor on. So I can get the rotor out, clean the rotor off with brake clean, slip the rotor on there. If you want, put some Never-Sees or some type of rust preventative on that flange before you put the rotor on. Try to help with that. See how that goes. So, like I say, put the new hardware on, put our rotor on, put our brake pads in, put them on, and torque those bolts. So these caliper bracket bolts are going to get torqued to 221 foot-pounds on this particular model. It's different for different models. Put some thread lock on your bolts. We got one click out of it. There. That's on. There. So, let me sift through my pile of crap. And we are going to collapse this piston on the caliper here. So I got this thing. Came from, where'd it come from? Astro. I mean, it's all right. Problem is, it doesn't go wide enough for these calipers, so I gotta kind of fill it in with pad material to get that in there. Maybe we can just use the one. It's not awesome to use. I mean, to be honest, if you don't have pressure on this little centerpiece here, it just spins back and forth. So it's kind of annoying, if you ask me. To be totally honest, I'm not impressed by it. I gotta find something to hold that from rotating because it ratchets, but it like I say, if you don't have anything holding it, it just spins back and forth. So you gotta like get it to the size you need it at, and then stick your fingers in there and hold it so it doesn't just go back and forth, and then it doesn't go wide enough anyway. So it's I say I'm not impressed by it. As a matter of fact, I'm getting kind of irritated even messing with it right now. It's like you buy something, it's like, oh yeah, I can use that, and then it's like, oh, by the way, it doesn't really work. Oh, that's awesome. I mean, once you get it tight, it works. It's not bad. But getting it set up is, I say, rather obnoxious. Especially if you got to do it twice because the hole or the gap is too big to compress them all the first time. I mean, I guess I can use a new pad, and that would probably work better. Yeah, all done. That is the Astro 78610, in case you're wondering. I think I'm just going to buy one of those, like, caulking gun pump ones that run them home from the side. Those, I mean, those don't really work. Those don't really... They're pretty straightforward. Delicious. So, I'll put a little this caliper grease on our pins. Don't go crazy. Let's probably put a little bit on there. Too much can be a problem. So, on this particular model, these caliper bracket, or the caliper guide pin bolts, get torqued to 80 foot-pounds. So that's part number for the rotors, and that's part number for the brake pads. They give you two of, well, they give you 4 pads obviously, but 2 pads have the wear things on one side and 2 pads have them on the other side, and they kind of only go in one way. That wear tab will rub like on the front, so the wear tabs actually I think go towards the bottom on both sets, so they're on the bottom here and on the bottom over there. You just got to kind of orient them because they don't really fit in there right if you don't do it that way. So plug our thing in. There's that. Put it back in our clip. So we're gonna put our wheel on. We're gonna torque it to 140 foot-pounds. Let me get your little cap. Stand out. Put our wheel down a little. I still have the weight on it. I just got it so it's touching enough to not turn. That's not right. 140. Let's go. Make sure you pump your brakes to close down on the pad, because you won't really have any brakes if you don't when you first drive away. And that's that. So, hope that can help somebody. Thanks for watching.